All right, so we are going to talk about the accomplishments and achievements of some of the different Chinese dynasties that have occurred over the past 4,000 years. So, for the second essential question, if you're looking up at the screen right now, you can see this timeline and how many different rulers and dynasties have existed over China's very long history. So we're going to start by talking about the Shang Dynasty. Now, if you look at the beginning of the timeline, you'll see that the Zhai Dynasty was really the first dynasty. However, we still don't know very much about what their dynasty and rulers were like, just because of at that time period they didn't keep very good written records. So really, we are going to kind of skip them and just talk about the Shang Dynasty, since they are the first dynasty that we really have good information and sources about. So the first thing that we want to note about the Shang Dynasty is just that fact that it was the beginning of Chinese recorded history, meaning that it's the first dynasty, the oldest dynasty that we actually have artifacts and documents from, that we can learn about the people from that time period. So that's going to be significant, and where we're going to kind of start from there. The second thing that we're going to talk about with this dynasty is that this dynasty occurred at the same time that the Bronze Age was happening. Now, the Bronze Age was an important time period where the metal bronze was incredibly important to making many different things within their society, things like weapons, armor, tools. And so as a result, that allowed for them to be very industrious during this time and become a successful civilization. Next thing that we want to note is that their society was mostly agrarian. Now, that word agrarian, if you're not sure what that means, it basically means that they were a society that was based around agriculture. So next to agrarian, in parentheses, you might want to write the word agriculture. So many of the people within their society were farmers, and that was a significant part of their success early on. The crop that they are most well known for growing was rice. They grew rice in what are called rice paddies, and that allowed for them to be well fed. If you think about Chinese or many Asian diets today, they are oftentimes, rice is a huge staple of their diet. And so that started, over 4,000 years ago during this time period. So they were a very agricultural society. But the next thing they also had was a very rigid social system. So they had a social hierarchy system where at the top was their king, and then below that would be court officials, and then below that would be warriors. But all three of those jobs were considered incredibly important within their society. If you think back to our Middle Ages unit when we learned about feudalism and their social hierarchy, that was very similar to that, where kings and then nobles and then knights were at the top, and then at the bottom were kind of the peasants. And so if you're looking up here, the bottom part of the Shang Dynasty social structure included artisans or craftsmen, farmers, and then slaves. So we can see a lot of similarities between those. Now, one of the big differences between that was that those individuals that were in kind of this bottom tier were oftentimes treated very poorly within their society, where within the feudal society there was equality because everyone was viewed as being a valuable member of society and contributing something that the others needed. So that's one kind of large difference between those. The last thing we're going to talk about is kind of their religion during this time period. So for their religion, one of the interesting things was that many of them worshipped a kindly, all-powerful dragon. If you think about Chinese culture today, they still view the dragon as a very significant animal. If you're looking at the picture there off to the right, you will see that is a dragon that is commonly seen in many Chinese New Year celebrations. And that really carried over from this time period, and this idea that there was a great all-powerful dragon that kind of ruled the sea and the sky and oversaw the people and brought good luck and good fortune to them. In addition, they also had supreme deities that oversaw many other gods, so kind of a somewhat polytheistic model similar to the Romans. However, one of the very interesting differences was that they did not worship those gods directly and do rituals specifically for the individual gods, but rather worshiped those larger entities through their own family members that had previously passed. So one of the most significant things that we are going to see throughout Chinese culture and society is this belief of what we call ancestor worship. Ancestor worship, the idea that they would oftentimes pay homage to those that were part of their family that came before them. And like it says up on the screen, this is an important component of their society as well as a lasting tradition. Even in Chinese culture today, family name and family identity are incredibly important. And you can see from the picture there on the right that that is a modern picture where even Chinese families today find ways of paying their respects to their grandparents or great-grandparents or even older ancestors than that, and very strongly recognize that as a huge tradition. So we will talk about that again when we talk about the themes that we found of Chinese culture and society.